Okay, hello everyone. This is Soviet Russian Bear, and after a while, Joaquin Flores is back with me. Yeah, say hi, Joaquin. Hi,
Hey,
everyone.
what's up, friends? Hello.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, okay. So, the topic of our today's video is the US upcoming elections 2024 and the Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. So, the very first question I would like to ask you about this is why did Joe Biden quit? I mean, he was saying he will never quit, no, and then the donors of the Democratic Party said, if you don't quit, we will we will stop donating to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it was a palace coup, and he was overthrown.
Mm,
I wrote about this on Strategic Culture Foundation in some depth, so I would encourage people, who want to
mhm,
explore some of the details that we could talk
mhm,
about too. But I would encourage, like, for follow-up, there's a Strategic Culture Foundation. You're not going to be able to link it like on your YouTube,
mhm.
And I even think that saying those words could give you a little problem, even saying those words I just said, SCF. Now, obviously, he is unfit. Like, obviously, he has dementia, but we've known that for years. So they put this, plot
Mhm.
together. And there's many different possibilities. And, on the Gold Goats and Gun podcast with Tom Luongo, which just came out, like, we worked through some of those possibilities. I've been writing on some of those possibilities, and it looks like there was first it happened in stages, but there was still a possibility. He's not physically capable,
Mhm.
but there's a reason that that it was important to have him play that role because the past 4 years have required a lot of unpopular things. Like, they had to do something complicated, which was they had to, in their view, remove Trump. Okay, but they also understood that they were walking into a trap of sorts. And this trap is the things that were going to happen immediately. Like, I'm going to say something that, is sort of outside of the mainstream of how most people understand this Afghanistan affair.
Mhm.
But if you really understand what Colonel Douglas McGregor in the last months of the Trump administration was helping Trump
Mhm.
do, was to get out of Afghanistan. And but there was no way to really, well, there was probably one different way to do it, okay? But the way to do it according to the military way of doing it, based on who was in charge, Milley or Miley, when you get Biden in there, then he basically takes responsibility for the exit from Afghanistan. But there was really no clean way to do it, in truth. There was really, because you see, if you move the pieces out, then the troops don't have any pieces to defend themselves with. If you move the troops out, then there's no one to use the pieces to, to defend yourselves,
Mhm.
right? They didn't really logistically have the possibility to move the pieces and the troops out at the same time without, like, creating levels of alarm among the Kabul, like the loyal, the paid off uh, Afghan secular
Uh-huh.
soldiers based in Kabul, like the Afghan army
Mhm.
of the U.S. administration. So they were going to lose security. So
Mhm.
there was a whole mess about how to exit there. That was just like one thing. Then you have, like, the inflation that's going to happen, like,
Mhm.
obviously from the COVID bailout.
Yeah.
Like, Trump had to approve that or approve that, or that's just how politics works in America. Like, no one thinks that Trump is a king or has, like, powers like Stalin or something. It's just
Mhm.
very obvious, like, there's other
Mhm.
powers, okay? The president is just one. Even officially, it's the executive branch in a
Yeah.
separation of powers, even officially. Then you have the corporate, the other influence, the military industrial complex, the lobbyists,
Mhm.
all this, etc. So the king is not an emperor, but so but yeah, there was the inflation thing. Um, then it's also like the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's if Trump would have, Trump. I'm going to say something that's weird, okay?
Okay, so
Like
go
if
ahead.
Trump had been in there,
Mm-hmm.
like Russia would not have the opportunity to regain half or some or whatever or more of
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine. So there's a lot of weird things about how this happened with Biden, but a lot the things that Biden had to do were going to look really bad to everyone except like 10 or 15%
Mm-hmm.
of the potential voters who are like baby boomers who watch, or university people who watch, who follow New York Times
Mm-hmm.
and follow the NPR, National Public Radio, and then to Amy Goodman and all this stuff. And then a larger demographic of that, MSNBC, and left of center,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, in the stupid American way of talking about news bias news.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like all of those people are the only ones that are going to like support Biden no matter what. So, but that's an important cult for them. But they're like the Kool-Aid drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the things that Biden has done is very, very unpopular. But a good number of the, not all of them, but a good number of things are things that Trump would have had to do something or something similar or something, you know, maybe different, but with similar outcomes that might not have been, that would have made whoever next. But the way that it worked out is actually like,
Mm-hmm.
now we are in a 2024 looking at having Donald Trump until 2028.
Yeah.
Whereas had he come in 2020, after 2024, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird, you know, ways of thinking about how the different catastrophes were set up, who takes the fall, who can come in and fix things, and it wouldn't have, it almost like wouldn't have worked out any other way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a plan. So now Biden, but for there's you have to have an analysis of power. And
Yeah.
if you have a shallow, meaning not deep or not comprehensive analysis of power, you know, then you're going to take the too long didn't read version, the TLDR version, and you're just going to apply it to understanding the world. And that's not going to help you because, you know, is there a ruling class? Yes. Are most politicians puppets? Yes. Do they follow the orders? Yes. But they're not without agency, like these would-be managers, like these managerial juntas, you
Mm-hmm.
know, who work for the ruling class within the political elites we're talking about, like people who have served as presidents or powerful senators or the heads of corporations. You know, it's very possible that, you know, sometimes, often they come from privileged families, but they're often also not per se like
Mm-hmm.
DuPonts or Rockefellers or Rothschilds,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception maybe of like the Pelosi's, Newsom and Getty. Those are like, that is a billionaire family, but they're not, you know, they have a lot of political control, and it's a different, their currency is power. So you might look at a bank account and be like, oh, this family's only worth $800 million. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they don't have, it's not 50 billion, which you then uncover when you get into these tech oligarchs with 50 or 100 billion. It's not like they can get that money. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's like stock valuation. But the minute they try to use it, it gets taxed. And then it's like, you know, they're actually just leaving that value be so that they can take loans out, and they actually live on debt.
Mm-hmm.
And their credit limit is
Yeah.
based upon money that they don't have to spend and get taxed on. Right. So, and then they live, and then everything is a loss, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a tax shelter, like as if they're
Yeah.
losing money, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yes.
but in terms of the power groups, you know, you have like the Newsom and Pelosi group. You have like Obama, right?
Yeah.
And you have like Clinton, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, basically the way, if you could imagine, if I know this is a caricature, but not too far off from the truth. So imagine like some like council of old, warlocks and shit, you know, like Lord Rothschild and you know these people, and then you've got like people like Obama or Clinton or Newsom. They're like making requests for an audience, and then they want to present, you know, like a fucking PowerPoint presentation. They want to present like their model, like their particular strategy, and of how to do it, like how to balance and finesse. You know, should we be attempting a coup in Venezuela, or is that not on the agenda? Should we be, what level of pressure on you? But the whole picture they agree on, you know, transatlanticism, global hegemony,
Support Ukraine.
Support Ukraine, but also the broadly like their approach to information war and all these things. So no, and their approach to internal politics. Like they're definitely pursuing an experiment in the upward limits of actual unpopularity, where you get to then show how powerful your ability to synthesize support, even under the most dire, catastrophic, hostile conditions, right? So these are all like experiments, but real life experiments in real time. So they have different approaches within this, right, within this model, but that includes, you know, Republicans and neocons and stuff. It's actually just a totally different paradigm, and you know now it's about trying to convince the ruling class in the West to accept that all of these different possible different plans of transatlanticism and global hegemony, whether it's the Obama plan or the Clinton plan or something in between, or the Pelosi plan or something in between, Schumer, you know, they have different variations, but that's different from the whole project is not going to get where we need it to go, right? That's like a different insurgent group of advisors and potential managers led by Trump. And there's been generals and others in policy think tanks that, so long as they're not on the take, you know, they can see clearly like, oh, there's limits to, you know, it's not good to actually weaken Germany in order to make sure that, you know, to weaken Russia. Like, that's not going to work. Like, you know, right? You don't weaken Germany. It does kind of weaken Russia in the sense that it's like a person, a country that isn't going to be buying your energy. And that's bad for Russian exports, but it's much worse for Europe and much worse for transatlanticism if Germany is weak. And that's just like what RFK Jr. was saying in his reasons that he's supporting Trump.
Yeah.
So, but in looking at, it's a very good question that you asked, Yuri, because you know, they took Biden out, and now it's like the Trump is not running against an incumbent, you know, and it's like he's not running against someone that is so easy to pin the responsibility for the past 4 years on.
Yeah.
But you know, but Trump did the same by not trying to stay in office in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like, because a lot of the things, you know, would have been hard. It would have been a whole different story. I think we talked about that before. But
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of Biden's successor. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Speaking of Biden's successor, Kamala Harris. So I know you moved to Serbia from California.
Yes.
You are a Californian.
Yeah.
And you have been into politics for decades, yeah?
Yes, about 4 decades or 3 decades. Yeah. 3.5 or 4 decades.
So you're obviously familiar with her activities when she was like a prosecutor in California, yeah?
Yeah, a prosecutor. Yeah. Yes, district. Yeah, the California Attorney General, District Attorney, State of California.
District Attorney. Yeah. So, what can you tell us about Kamala Harris?
Do you want like something very esoteric and like about like crazy shit, or do you want something like banal and like something that you can hear Louder with Crowder talk about. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to really know the real shit with Kamala Harris? Like the real deep shit?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the historically Black colleges and universities, right? And also in other universities that have African American studies department.
Yeah.
And Black studies or now, let me say first, it is good that universities have this in the abstract. Okay, and it's very important. Generally when it was first conceived, this area of academia is very positive. Okay, but now the problem is not this. I'm just saying this is where things are happening. I don't know if I should work. I don't know if I should build up and then you finally get it, or if I should tell you the fucking conclusion and then people be like, no, what the fuck is this guy saying? And then have to go back and prove it, you know? Like, should I lay the foundation so when I tell you the truth that people can see it? Or should I tell the truth first so that my explanation makes more sense because you're looking to hear, you're looking for what evidence to hear or for what story to hear me say. So I don't know how to approach this, man, because it's very hard for people to understand what I'm about to say.
Well, it's better to lay a foundation. Yeah.
Okay. So, over 100 years ago, you had people like Aleister Crowley and people trying to do sorcery.
Oh yeah.
And necromancy. And so you have these necromancers and they developed this, and it's real, it's true. Their beliefs are not true, but the phenomenon is true. Like their beliefs about what justifies it or that they should be doing it are false. The things that they're after are false. But that it can be done is a true thing. Okay. There is power in pain.
Yeah.
And the collective experience of enslaved people in the New World who had been brought from Africa or born in the Caribbean or born in as slaves, as enslaved people in the United States. There's a lot of hardship and pain here, a lot of tears and agony. Okay. And basically, there's the way that the field developed in the United States in esoteric and combination of esoteric studies combined with African American or Black heritage studies, cultural studies, reintroduced like a focus on orishas, dolls, voodoo, hoodoo. And look, you don't have to believe that the phenomenon works or is real. I know that it does. But the fact that people believe in this stuff is a fact. And that organizations can be built around these things, whether they're true or not, is also a fact. Well, you can see that. For example, if you're an atheist, that doesn't prevent people from making organized religion or building churches or holding ceremonies based on that belief. And you can, you have to agree that that church physically exists, whether or not you believe in God. And likewise, there have been organizations built for Black people who want to become in the managerial juntas of the American or Western ruling class. because the ruling class culture or the managerial and the ruling class culture is very steeped in this stuff, this whatever you want to call it, occult,
Yeah.
occult, sorcery, and occult things. So, Kamala Harris is so she made an organization that was, it sounds like the Fraternal Order of Police, but it's called the Fraternal Order of Law Enforcement Officers or something. And it's for black people who are police officers.
Uh-huh.
And there was a huge criminal case in the US, in California, involving them because they just because you're a police officer doesn't mean that you're a police officer in every jurisdiction.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm a police officer from Los Angeles City and I'm up in San Francisco and I start flashing my badge and trying to arrest people and stuff or pull people over, then I'm impersonating a police officer, even though I am a police officer in a different jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
People in this organization were doing that. And they may have had some people that were not at all law enforcement officers as well, but I'm not sure, in this organization. So California, the state of California, ended up having to prosecute this organization when she was the district attorney, but she was also the president of that organization. Now, the organization is very connected to the George Floyd case.
Really?
And what people, it was this is very connected to Antifa and BLM.
Mm.
And what people need to kind of understand is that George Floyd was a human sacrifice.
Yeah, and they tried to make some sort of new Jesus out of him.
Yes, they tried to make some kind of Antifa BLM Jesus out of him. And even though he was a male prostitute, porn star, drug addict.
Wow.
I don't believe that he should have died. And I think that the police were too rough with him. That's my opinion. I think when I look at it, I know he was on drugs and stuff, but I also saw the way the cop was on him and stuff. My eyes work, you know. People can tell me it's standard procedure, but I have problems with the standard procedure, you know. But whatever, you know. I'm not saying that the police officer didn't do the right procedure. I don't know that that departmentally that the guy is culpable or not, but I didn't like what I saw. I know that there's other ways to deal with people like that. And anyway, I don't think the killing was justified. But that doesn't mean that he's some great guy. But the penalty for being a drug addict prostitute is not death by cop. Okay, so like, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I'm not saying he deserved to die. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
just telling the truth about his character and who he was. So, but he was sacrificed, and they ritualize it.